Done. There is a theory that remote work means you are less likely to advance in your career than in a traditional office job. And actually, today, even, I read a statistic that 31% of employees say that they felt their opportunities for growth had decreased since the start of the pandemic. Clara, what's your experience and opinion on this?
Yeah, I would say that it's been extremely difficult for any people or HR team to kind of, figure out, how to, how to kind of place this and what's going to happen and kind of, what's going to be the future. My opinion in terms of, in terms of kind of traditional versus remote versus distributed, there isn't like always one way that things kind of evolve. I feel like things kind of have a tendency to merge together, and and there's something new will be evolved. So I think hybrid teams will be kind of the most common trend on the market. I mean, we've all been working remotely. I've personally been remote for almost 2 years now. And I used to love working from home when I could. Now that I could do it the whole time, I did not enjoy it as much. So I feel like it's about actually being in an environment where you are inspired, where you can be creative, and whether that is at home or with other folks in a co-working center or just going to the office to meet your teammates, that is very individual. But I feel like companies should anticipate creating those environments for their teams, right? So you should always understand what your employees need, and try and create that environment for them, whether that is in office or remote.
Yeah, I completely understand. Lucy, in your role, is this something that echoes what you've heard from your employees before, and how have you approached that?
I think for our employees, it was very difficult because we were every day in a workplace, in offices, and just now it's a different situation. But I think I don't think it matters if you go every day to the office or if you're working from home. What matters is if you want to do something and if you want to develop yourself. So if you want to do something, you can do it from home and also from the workplace. As Clara said, a workplace and office, you're connected to the people. From home, it is a little bit difficult, but I think just now we have many tools how to be connected with the people. And it depends only on the person if he, she wants to do something and develop and to make a career.
Make it work, yeah. And Zuzka, what is your opinion? And do you think that opinion changed pre or during the pandemic about opportunities for growth remotely?
Well, I don't think it particularly, I'm sorry, I don't think it changed actually during the pandemic. I think like what I see in our company is that it's particularly difficult for juniors, especially in like software development. While we are remote, there is certain part of the training missing. It's the learning from others, the option of pair programming. For the pair programming, you need to, like schedule an event in the calendar, and it's more difficult to reach out to each others. And especially I see in the junior position that the people are struggling, to overcome the fear of being too heavy and being too needy. And, like they have their inner motivation, but while they are studying on their own, they often can get lost in the abundance of like the sources and everything. So they need the right guidance, and it's slightly more difficult to get the guidance whenever they need it while we are remote. So I would say that it is like more difficult to probably advance your career, especially for the junior positions. But also I think with the right mindset and with the right setting, and with the right rules with your mentor or with your guide or buddy or whoever that is, so then it's not I mean, like so hard to get advanced. But I see like the difficulties definitely.
Yeah. And I think maybe you just touched slightly on the next question about just how people are feeling. And I think probably not just about being remote and at home, but I think there's just an overall feeling in the last year that it's been quite uncertain for employment, and employees have been feeling like their jobs have gotten harder, perhaps because they're not having that learning from others and other reasons. And I know myself for one, and I'm sure others on this call today can agree with that feeling of jobs being a bit harder. Lucy, you just mentioned it's really important, people's attitudes and their motivations. Did you see a difference in motivation or people's attitude in the past year to professional development?
Of course, as Zuzka also said, it is very difficult for the people if they are working every day with another people in a workplace directly to be just now at home offices working remotely. So of course, the reactions were very different. I think that at the beginning of the whole crisis, education, learning development was or were the last things on the agenda of our employees. So they want to, I understand it. They were in new situation. They should coping with the situation, solve new things which were not normal before. And it was a big challenge for everybody, for sure. From L&D perspective and how it was in our company, it was important not to leave employees too long in that approach and to activate them, support them, and engage them to the fact that even in such time, they need to develop. They need to learn something new. And on our side, side of learning and development, we should come with activities or show activities that reflected this situation and needs. It was very, very individual. Some people coped with the situation very quickly, and for another, the situation itself was the development. At Sodexo, we support on-the-job activities, and I think the pandemic was a big on-the-job activity for the people. So they have opportunity to learn many things on the go.
Yeah. And Zuzka, what is your opinion? Do you feel like jobs have gotten harder, or again, do you think that was just for the more junior members? And did you see that reflected in people's attitude to some of the programs perhaps you were rolling out?
Absolutely. I can agree with Lucy totally that the learning development got kind of idle at the beginning, and definitely they had to make, like everyone had to make some adjustments in their regime, in how we are using actually different channels. You have Slack, you have then U-Track, you got tickets, you got issues, and you got emails and calls and messages, and to actually coordinate all of those channels. So we had to make some adjustments with that, and we still have like a long journey ahead to actually clean that mess out. But definitely, I think the jobs got harder, and especially, and I saw it on my own calendar, because you were booking, all the slots. So then we felt so tired after all of those calls, all of those online meetings. But also what we learned, we learned to use all of the tools like very effectively, all of those features in Google Meets. We are not using Zoom, we are using Google Meets, so the rising hand and chats and polls and everything. So we definitely improved in that, like it wasn't usual before. Like not every meeting had the agenda prepared ahead. So now this is like a new standard for us, especially for those important meetings. So I think people also realize that it's not only about meeting, but it's about the preparation. And by that thing, I think the jobs got harder, because at some point there were too many meetings, so we had to cut off. and the people realized that, hey, we are meeting all the time, so we don't have time for like our own jobs. So yeah, I don't think particularly the jobs got harder in, you know, in per se, in the matter, but all the stuff around reaching out to people, communicating, that got a little bit more harder. So yeah, and I definitely see what Lucy is saying about the on-the-job activities, because although we are a technological company, we had to learn those things as well.
Yeah. And Clara, what do you think? Do you think it's a fair statement? Did you have feedback to that extent, and how did you handle it?
Yeah, I would say like both as an employee and a people manager, and like with all of our customers, like I've seen this like across the board. And I actually was onboarded during the pandemic, right? So learning is a huge part of onboarding, and my motivation to learn something new was kind of at the point of zero. Like I was not ready for that. So it was really, really difficult. And when we were building our L&D tracks now in the last few weeks, I was trying to take that experience into account to make sure that, if we're building these programs, we need to set expectations such way that all those things that seem mandatory, you are on top of Slack, you're on top of email, you are at all calls, you always have your camera on. All these things have expectations and boundaries around them, so that we don't lose energy during the day and actually have time to learn, to develop, and so on. So and I've seen this with a lot of our customers as well. So I think, as Lucy mentioned on the beginning, I wanted to echo that, L&D was kind of the last thing anyone was thinking about, right? The first thing, I feel like the first week you were just trying to call everyone if like they're online, if they have a computer at home, like that.
Yeah.
That was like the priority, right? Nobody was asking you the question like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? But that's changing, and I'm happy that we're kind of getting out of that limbo and thinking about how we can actually grow and improve. And I think the first step to really doing that is setting boundaries around what you don't need to do when in order to have time to take any courses, read any articles, whatever your manager or people team prepares for you. So I definitely agree, it's been very difficult. The jobs have, in my opinion, got more intense, and that it's about time that every company kind of starts looking into their L&D programs and how they can shift them to make them a bit more pleasant for their teams.
Yeah, I think there was that time at the beginning where people weren't sure how long this would last, and like you said, after this initial few weeks settled and you had phoned everyone and you had made sure that people had the laptop, and I mean me as well, what were the practical changes to professional development last year too? Zuzka, did you find I know you probably did find the pandemic turbulent, we all did, but what were some practical changes that you put in place after that settling down period in live sport?
I'm not sure I can speak on behalf of live sport, because I joined live sport after the first wave, so I did like career change. But I think after like what I've heard, basically, I think that after the first shock wave, live sport, after they managed to equip everyone with the computers and chairs and whatever, they started to help a lot. They started with some help in the there weren't enough masks, so they were buying and distributing masks to those people who needed help in the hospital and stuff like that. So I think that was like very nice, and I really appreciate it. And in terms of learning and development, I think the other thing was activate those people. Hey, everything is fine, your jobs are stable, we are helping others, are you guys okay? What about your families? And then let's get back to work, and we are trying to keep it as normal as possible, because the job at that point of the crisis, of the chaos, was something what was one of those stable pillars within the lives of people in the company. So I think in life sport, everyone tried to, after the shockwave, they tried to get back to like normal. It wasn't normal, but at least like whatever left was left from the normal. Yeah, so I think that was sort of what happened. And the professional changes in like the professional development, the changes in professional development, I think those are affecting us now after the year. And we've started to pilot some programs, also like piloting FemPilot mentoring for our guys in live sport. And we are testing and trying new things. So it changed. We realized that we need to keep moving, but we are looking for different options.
Great. And Clara, what was your experience? I know you played that role both employer and on the other side of the coin. So did you support different approaches or see different approaches to professional development?
Absolutely. And I think, again, like what was the very first step that we took was kind of setting the expectations. And I think that's always very important. And it's a line or like a buzzword that a lot of people use. But I've recently just like did that with a new teammate of mine as well, explaining, all right, I don't expect you to be on Slack after 5 p.m. Or when you are doing a course, we want you to do 5 hours a day and take the rest of the day off. Because like those are some examples that we did. Because if you are at home remote, all you do is you're watching the screen, right? And it's like when you're done with that, the rest you can do is watch the screen, right? There was literally like nothing else to do. So we wanted to make sure that, comparing to when you were able to go to trainings, in-person trainings, have after parties, right? And a completely different experience. You were able to shift your environment and the energy around you versus when you're at home, you cannot do that. So it was really important to kind of, put ourselves in the shoes of the employees and say, all right, if we are tired, they're definitely tired. Like we kind of need to change that and change the way we're setting the boundaries for them. So I think it was a lot about like explaining to managers and to the rest of the team, like, hey, we cannot expect 100%, right? So let's build this such way that it's sustainable. And of course, just sharing the message from the leadership team that, hey, we do not want you to feel like you are missing on something when you are remote or decide not to come back to the office. The experience is going to be the same for you, but the rules are still the same for everyone. So everybody follows their KPIs, everybody follows their professional goals, right? And anything they said. And we are here to help you get there, right? And let's figure out how to get there. So I think it was a lot about just saying these like very like at the first glance, these things seem very basic, but I feel like if you just say these things out loud, or like what Zuzka mentioned, just like having an agenda for a meeting and having it there so you don't get lost and everybody kind of gets ready and gets excited and is looking forward to what's being shared, like those little things I feel like make such a difference. So that was, I would say, probably like the biggest change we did. I was at Deep Note at the time, and I started something called Learning Weeks. So our employees would have 3 learning weeks during the first 3 months of their onboarding. And they would always take 1 week off and be completely offline and just work on and learn, kind of take any courses they wanted, etc. And then this would be repeated every 6 months. So every 6 months you would get 1 week off, and you would not be on the support lines. You would not be on Slack. Nobody would kind of see you, know about you, unless you wanted to touch base. And you just had that time for yourself to get educated on the things you agreed on with your manager. So that was like one example of how we approached this.
I think it's really interesting, even just the comment about empathy, just really understanding what people were going through and putting a label to some of these things, because sitting on your own, you might not have realized that your colleagues were even feeling the same as you. So creating that like environment and cultural understanding of community, like isolated, have been a big help as well. And I think some of those practices you mentioned will be helpful for some of the speakers today. Lucy, what about you? How did you and your team react in the last year?
I think it was very similar, like Zuzka and Clara said, also in Sodexo. So we provided services in the whole Republic, so in many places of Czech Republic, and many activities we used to do face to face before. So our big challenge need to change our approach. Big challenge was to switch the people to the virtual space, and it was with many people very hard. So we had to support our employees and bring many tools how to work with these tools for virtual meetings, virtual connecting. We have in our company Teams, so how to use it, how it works, and although we have also in our company LMS, e-learning platform, and so on, but the people were not familiar with this before, not so familiar. So I think this situation very fast bring our people to this tools, and maybe they found also benefits. And I think if we are speaking about pandemic, we speak only about the negative impact of the pandemic. Yeah, the impact was very horrible for all the people, for all the branches. But I think the people also found at the end some benefits, maybe in learning and development, that they're familiar with LMS, and now more than ever, and they found benefits quickly, unwritten, on choice of activities, on choice of time. It depends only on the people. There they learn how they learn. They save time. It was in our approach also a great stimulus for reflection on current issues. I think just now it was really the people need this, so we should reflect on this needed issues, and it was maybe for us better for searching relevant topics in activities. And we prepare many activities which reflected this situation, and which were very supportive for the people. And it was really about the implementing of new tools, how to be connect, how it works, and it is possible also if you are not directly in a workplace, and you can stay with your colleagues. But the people needed at the beginning big support, because for our people, especially from operational, it was really very hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. And actually that leads on quite nicely to the next question, and maybe some of this has been covered already, but we've talked about some of the challenges you faced. I mean, the biggest one was moving everyone from those people who are used to being in the office to virtual, to setting up those tools and getting people onboarded into those tools. Were there any other challenges that you can share with the guys now, or that you overcame and you feel like would help them, like looking back? Clara, did you see any in the companies you've witnessed and built?
Yeah, I think it's, the general challenge of remote, I would say, is kind of, the lack of expectation, loneliness, and burnout. I would say those were like the three most common challenges that like every single person kind of went through in the past months. And One thing that I feel like has not been addressed at all is, and I just read a really good article on the topic, was the kind of the burnout of the HR team, because the HR team has been quite nonstop for the last 12 to 16 months. And I'm very biased. I'm from the people team, right? But I feel like it's been a little roller coaster for everyone. And there I've seen many companies now, actually two only today, announcing a global week off for everyone. And I feel like this is kind of allowing us to, all right, stepping back, taking a break. And this is kind of what the people teams also need to do in order to, again, get their energy, get creative, and so on. So I think the challenge is that right now, and I feel like this is going to become more and more important as we go, people teams can no longer kind of walk around the office and say, all right, everyone, get up, it's time to do this, time to do that. We need like more cheerleaders in the company to help with that. So I've seen teams doing different like culture squads and just engaging those employees who are a bit more proactive and helping to still build the culture, build the feedback loops, right? And just contribute. And this is, this goes for L&D, but it goes for all the other areas in HR. So I think kind of, the challenge of distributing people teams and actually putting in different mechanisms that help them really do their job better, so that they have more time, not only to be creative and have, a few days to brainstorm what does the next employee experience look like in our company, versus tackling multiple fires on Slack and online, which then takes hours because you just cannot talk to people because you're not in front of them.
Yeah.
I think this is like what we've seen so much. So kind of, learning to automate all of the manual things, having supporters in the company, and then, having more time to be creative. I think that's been like the biggest challenge. And if you think about it, the role of HR has become, we've got such a huge responsibility that I feel like, one of the challenges, in my opinion, is kind of, who's building the learning and development tracks for the HR team, right? Who's kind of building that for us. So it's very biased. Like I said, I am from a people team, but I feel like that's like one of the things I did not hear. I did not like hear people say a lot, and I think it's time to kind of reflect on that a little bit as well. So yeah, that's just my opinion.
No, I think that's a really interesting perspective. And again, me as well, researching into this event, I don't think I really saw much about turning the mirror back on the people who are working so hard to keep the culture virtually. And I love the idea of a culture squad, and thinking differently and outside of the box to get people within the company to help you check the temperature of what's happening. I think it's a really interesting thing. I feel like I'm going to take that one myself. Lucy, do you have anything to add to that? What other challenges have you seen?
So as I still said, the switch people to virtual space, it was really big challenge, something new for everyone. And also I said that it's on one side, and on the other side, from L&D perspective, it's important to bring some tools and resources and ways how to do it. So we had to support our employees a lot and engage our managers to do the same with their teams. But the situation was new for the people, so we prepared very quick at the beginning of this pandemic, of this crisis, 5 e-learning modules for the people that responded to current needs, like working remotely, managing of remote teams and communication with remote teams, how to use oral communication platforms. But very important was also that they focus on mental health and well-being, because it was a big part of our lives. Pandemic impact very bad our mental health and well-being. We should solve many situation. We should solve time management, how to work from home, how to be with family, how to work and also have time for our hobbies and these things. So we prepare these e-learning modules, but also many very simple communication materials, one-pagers, some guidelines, manuals. We prepared podcasts for the people, so everyone could choose what makes sense for themselves. So we didn't push at this time for the completion of every module of every training action, but we showed the possibilities, the ways. We prepared resources, we prepared tools, and it was also something we started before the pandemic, and it's connected to our performance development framework, to be responsible for the development, to be responsible for your career path. We have some resources, tools, and you can choose. And now you have also the possibility to build your own way, your own learning and development way, and it's your responsibility.
Yeah, I think what something that really resonated with me then is just finding different channels to engage people that might resonate with them differently. Like the podcast idea is not necessarily needing to be at your screen, but something that they can listen to and engage with. And I think probably one thing that comes from this crisis is creativity, and creativity of looking at different ways in which you can involve people and make them be responsible, as you said. Zuzka, is there anything you want to add to build on that?
Yeah, well, I really want to thank you, Lucy, that you brought up the mental health issues. This is something what we start to tackle, especially when we are getting back to the office. You know, again, change of regime. We've been through a lot, so this is something what we actually try to, tackle this topic as well. This is one of the topics what I made notes of. The other one is one of the challenges is to keep people engaged. And this also is sort of linked to transparent communication and the balance with sort of, not get to the alert fatigue. So, keep it balanced. This is super big challenge, and it's very difficult to find the right balance between those two parts. And so this is something that we are, trying to find and maybe set up like a communication policies and some rules. We don't want to restrict people too much, but sometimes it's like for our not only good but for our own sake, because sometimes it's just too much. And one last challenge, which is not necessarily connected to the remote type of work. This is something that's especially connected with the fact that live sport is growing quite quickly. And so I've been in live sport for, well, it's going to be a year next month. So it's not such a long time. But before that and up until now, the learning and development experience is very personalized, very individual, and it's mostly on shoulders of our team leads. And this is something what we are trying to shift a little bit. We want to give them sort of like a frameworks and competency model, something what they can rely on. And this is like a huge challenge for myself and my team, because especially in software development, we do not understand what the guys are doing. I mean, like, it's totally different area. We are people and they are tech people, and it's different. So this is like one of the biggest challenges, and I don't think it matters either it's online or face to face. It's super challenging to find again the same language and find the balance between possibility of having very individualistic program for the person who needs it, very individual personalized experience, and not getting crazy because I need to personalize it for every single person from scratch again and again and again. So this is like one of the biggest challenges what we are facing right now.
Yeah, it sounds quite difficult, especially as you're growing so rapidly. And so I'll ask a final question before opening up to everyone. We've mentioned lots of different activities and plans. Are there any in particular you find really resonate with employees? Clara, is there any that you would recommend in your experience?
Yeah, what I've been fascinated with in the last few weeks was microlearning. So it's the sort of new concept. Maybe if anyone here is familiar with Culture Amp, for example, it's this new concept of educating your employees and kind of sharing information with them in these very small batches over timeline of few weeks to few months, where you're using channels where the employees are. So you're not actually asking them to log into a different tool, because there's very likely chance that they're only going to do it like the day before the deadline, and instead you're kind of communicating with them where they are, which is most likely in Microsoft Teams or Slack or Skype for Business or any other tool. Kind of, maybe Skype for Business doesn't exist anymore actually, but actually where they are to cut that short. And you're sharing information with them on the programs that can be a bit more generalized. So Zuzka actually mentioned that usually L&D, if you're kind of a scaling company, or if you kind of did not have any sort of template or framework for that before, is very personalized. But there are some tracks that you can share with everyone in the company that you can kind of share across the board, right? So I think those can be programs like general soft skills. A lot of teams I've seen are doing different empathy trainings through these programs. Different topics on diversity, inclusion, and belonging, just kind of opening up the minds of your employees and kind of shifting the mindset a little bit. Feedback frameworks and all these things kind of shared once a week in a small message with one resource that takes 5 minutes to read, and then your employees kind of check off, yeah, I've read this, I did not read this. I found those super fun. There's a lot of other things, of course, you can do. Lucy mentioned podcasts and even videos and so on. I think that it's amazing just to do everything possible. I've also heard from someone that any sort of material they share is an audio recording, video recording, and a text. That's so much material, and I really kudos to the people that they built that, because it's a lot of things to share. But this is just another fun idea I thought I could share here. I found it really engaging. So yeah, I think that would be my answer.
Great. Lucy, what about you? Would you add anything to that?
So I like the variety of educational tools and methods, because I'm not advocate of giving everything to everybody in learning and development. It depends really on the individual, and each person often needs something different. It's very important that we in L&D are looking for every methods which are available, and it's very important to know your people in the company, and the people if you are speak with the people. So communication, open communication, open discussion, and keep track of your people. Encourage the people to the discussion, what they need and what they want, and then match all these things with the needs of company and with the business of company also. I say it's learning and development. It's not pressure from the company. It's something that I can get for myself, maybe just now in the current company, and it increases my chances in general in the labor market for future. As I said, we have just now in Sodexo, and it started very short time before the pandemic, performance and development framework, and it based on a regular conversation between managers and employees, and it based of setting objectives, achieving objectives, individual objectives, competency development, also choosing of learning action, and feedbacks from multiple perspectives. And in heart of this process is an employee, because this person sets objectives, chooses the competencies, and also the learning activities or learning actions, and asks for feedbacks. And it's about the responsibility I said before, and it is very important in this time to engage the people for the responsibility of the development, and it is still this responsibility connected to the learning and educational tools and methods. So if we have only some e-learning modules, some projects or podcasts, videos, or also mentoring, coaching, another methods. It depends on the people and on the activity of the people and the responsibility to what they want to do.
And I know it's a program you've only just recently rolled out, but are you getting good feedback that people enjoy the sense of responsibility for their careers? I see you nodding, so I think so.
Yeah, it's just now a very big challenge for us, because as I said, it started a very short time before the pandemic, and then if we should start with first conversation, the pandemic began. So just now we are in the situation to engage the people and bring back the sense of this process. So and we communicate with the people. So we have biweekly as per virtual coffees, and we are talking about this process and about the responsibility, about the steps, about the possibilities that they can do in development plans, in competencies, in objectives. Why it's important to ask for feedbacks, and also the feedback is a part of our development, and can show us where we have some gaps and what we know very good.
And Zuzka, you mentioned you've recently implemented the Fen Pilot Mentoring Program, and how's that going? Hopefully well. And what other activities have you found resonate?
Yeah, well, the mentoring resonates very well. I think the people who are in the program, they are like very happy. They had, I don't know, like first couple of sessions with their mentors, but it's doing well, I think. And I already know about some other like nominees for another round of mentoring. So hopefully this whole pilot gonna turn out well, and we can extend, because I'm a huge advocate of mentoring overall. I really enjoyed mentoring with FemPilot, and being a mentor was like a huge challenge for me, and it was also it advanced me in many ways, basically. Definitely mentoring is a thing. The online training, having the possibility of taking any online courses, languages or other courses over Udemy or Coursera or wherever they want to, to have the flexibility, you know, to sort of take it home or study during weekends whenever they feel they have the mental capacity and they want to process the information. This is also very nice. I myself am doing it. I mean, like, I shouldn't be sort of working but during weekends, but I really enjoy it, you know, being seated on the sofa, you know, feeling comfortable and, you know, absorb some information. This is something which is very, very nice. And I think the people are responding very well to that as well. You know, the flexibility is crucial at the moment. And definitely I would say what is like resonating again, and it's getting back, like everyone within the tech community, it's you know, looking forward to meetups and physical meetings. So we are looking forward to it. We are looking forward to conferences, face-to-face conferences. And this is something what people in life sport are enjoying very much. I'm one of them, one of those people. Although I feel a little bit socially awkward, and you know, like whenever there is a couple of more people, I don't feel so comfortable. But you know, that's training, that's a process. So I need to train again. And this is something what we are looking forward to it, and hopefully it comes back sooner than later.
Yeah, I know, that would be great. I think we're all looking forward to that. So in the last few minutes, I have a few questions, and there's 3, so maybe we could take it one each. So the first question was from Laura. One of the reasons it is so hard for employees to take the lead on growth and professional development conversation with the company could be, in some cases, because managers are hard to reach. Remote work had made it maybe even more difficult to reach out to managers and find time for these activities and conversations. How do you make sure that employees have the right access to managers and access to the conversation about growth in the remote environment? Siska, would you like to take that one as you're already off mute?
Well, that's a tough one, Laura. Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, we recently, like this year, we implemented new performance and talent management system as well. So there is still at least quarter one-on-one. And I'm also in the process of implementing HRMS system, which actually provides all the support and all the framework for us. But once every 3 months, I think it's not enough. And then it's, well, I cannot assure that, but I know like within our teams, usually the people are meeting at least monthly. In my team, we have like bi-weekly retrospectives, and I hope like people from my team know that I'm approachable, and hopefully that's also the case of like our employees. But to be fair, I cannot control that, and I don't have the right to check it with everyone. But whenever someone comes like to myself that he or she has a problem and that they are my first question is, have you discussed it with your manager? And when they say no, the person doesn't have time, so then I push. But it hasn't happened yet in live sport. So luckily, I'm gonna knock it. So this is something I don't have it under my control. The people should be responsible for themselves. As Lucy said, this is very difficult and important. For the people, sometimes it's very difficult to take the responsibility for their own future, but it's their lives, and we kind of save everyone.
Great.
Okay. I can say something to this. Yeah, people should be responsible, but at the beginning, you should engage them and speak about this topic, because it's very hard to say at once, now you're responsible for your development. And this question, I think it is very similar to our process we have in Sodexo, because our performance development process is based on ongoing conversation between managers and employees. And we connected this process to our LMS, to our HR tool, where you can plan your conversation, not only if you want to see how you achieve your objectives, but you can choose many types of conversation you can have with your manager. So I think it's very important to give the people some tool and speak with them about the responsibility and about the necessary of the own responsibility.
Perfect. Okay, the next question is from Lucy. So what resources, programs or tools would you recommend to employees who would like to learn and grow outside of the company? For example, if the company does not have a formal L&D program, what other choice has the employee to keep growing? Well, I would just like to say, firstly, FemPalette mentoring, representing the brand, is a great way to keep people learning and development outside the company. And if anyone wants to learn more about it, please get in touch after the event. But Lucy, what would you suggest?
I think it's very important to know the people in your company and to choose the right method for the people or for the groups of people in your company. It's very important to speak about the possibilities the people have, and don't be afraid that something doesn't work. So sometimes you should start with something, and then maybe you can find it doesn't work. Yeah, it's about communication and about knowing your people in a company. So to prepare many activities where the people can share their needs and their requests, and also to speak with the managers how they see their people in the team, for example, and find the match between all these things.
Okay, great. And the last question, just maybe got a little bit of time for it, is from Nicola. Do you have any ideas on how to motivate employees to continue developing themselves, attending the trainings? We have an internal training offer, but I'm struggling with quite a big drop of interest in trainings when they are done online. Clara, do you have any thoughts to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is like a common theme, right? If you are online the whole day, your motivation to be online more is usually very low. So I think like my first kind of like the way I would probably handle this is like circle back to employees who've kind of lost interest and ask them why. Was it like, was it because it's online and there's just too much going on in terms of meetings, or was it because you don't enjoy the experience, and how can we kind of change the experience so that it would be more engaging? I recently read somewhere that I think like 83% of like online courses and webinars have polls every 10 minutes to keep up the engagement during the learning, have like mini quizzes, mini challenges, and so on. So I think that, that can be, trying to think of like these little things that can make your sessions more interactive. What I found to be also really, really fun, and have experienced this as an employee as well, was to have kind of a learning partner. So with my colleague, we were doing a data science course, which was very outside of our scope. And we would set every Wednesday an hour for learning, and we would always talk to each other. So we would be on a call during the course and then just unmute and comment on whatever we learned. So actually assigning sparring buddies can be really fun, right? We do parental leave buddies, we do onboarding buddies. Why not try learning buddies to have someone to share the experience with? So I enjoyed that a lot, and I think it's a nice way to connect with somebody completely outside of your team, to have some human interaction, even though it's online, and it can be very casual, but you can have someone to kind of talk about the material, talk about the training with. So yeah, I guess that's how I would go about it.
Great. Well, I mean, that hour flew by for me, and we've just gone a little bit over, and that's all we have time for today. I hope everyone here found it as interesting and helpful as I did. It was great to speak to you all. Thank you very much to our speakers. First of all, thank you for your time, and I hope to speak to you all again very soon. And that's bye from us.